Welcome back to the iconic podcast that everyone's been talking about. This is episode 2. I already watched a few things and, going over the thing. And I didn't introduce myself because, only my friends are seeing this and they already know who they are. So, yeah, my name is, I'm going by Sandy. I know me as Sansi as well. Uh, Doing nothing. Yeah, just running this thing solo. Today is the video game episode. The iconic video game episode, which, to be frank with you, I don't want to do. Well, I do want to do. I've been wanting to do this. I want to yap. I just really haven't got the time because, bit of bad sleeping, I guess. And I was expecting to do something today, which was important. But, that doesn't really matter. We're here to talk about video games today. My favorite video games and video games I want and stuff. Uh, you know. As a person who, doesn't really have a computer at the moment, like a laptop or anything, I don't play a lot of computer games. Well, mostly because I couldn't play a lot of stuff, but I ended up playing lots of like mobile games and stuff. And I did play a few computer games when I did have my laptop back then. It died of mold. I don't know how. It just got a mold outbreak, which is unfortunate. But you know what? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Don't care. Well, I do care, but I did miss or lose some stuff that was in there regarding making video games. I was messing around with a little RPG program called RPG Papermaker, because at the time, me and my friends were making little games. No, only one of my awesome friends were making video games. And I was like, you know what? I have a computer. I should do that. I should figure it out. I want to make games. And it brought up the playing Fire Emblem series. A little niche, little inside joke. It's just a little inside joke. You don't have to worry about it. But if you know, then you know. Those who know. Yeah. I wanted to make video games. The video games I've been making, or was making, were stupid. That were related to a popular, I wouldn't say popular, but a very cool game called Fire Emblem Three Houses. I've been wanting to play the game. I've heard lots of praise of it from my friends. And yeah, that's one of the games I've been wanting to get into. Mostly for the characters. That's what I'm looking for in those kinds of games. I want to see the characters interact. I want to see characters do their own little silly things. Which is another thing because I don't like video game combat. Like the video game combat of Fire Emblem. I'm not a big fan of that because it's just kind of like boring. It's kind of dumb. It's not really my thing. But yeah. And I also really don't like the Fire Emblem franchise. Not Three Houses, just the other franchises I've seen of Fire Emblem. Because my brother used to shove it down my throat. He's like, "Oh, you gotta play Fire Emblem. You gotta play Fire Emblem Heroes. You gotta collect all the funny JPEGs and stuff." I don't like him. He's also got one of his. He also has the most bland character taste. Just woman, I guess. That swordsman everyone's talking about. The one who's Alfred's favorite. If you don't know who Alfred is, it's just random YouTuber, random guy who yaps, whatever. Don't really care. But yeah, it's that little samurai. It's that samurai girl with like blue dress and whatever, who's from like the original Fire Emblem franchise. But yeah, not a big fan of the Fire Emblem franchise. Besides Three Houses, uh, I don't like it when a lot of franchises get really dragged out. You know, when franchises don't really know how to end well. One of these franchises would be the Toram Online franchise, or rather the sort of like interconnected world between Iruna Online and Toram Online, because those two are very related to each other. Iruna is basically describing the world of Toram how it was before, if I'm not wrong, and Toram Online is taking place after a grave incident, I believe known as the Cataclysm, which basically tore apart Iruna, the world where they start. And I know a lot. I don't know. I'm going to be talking a lot about Iruna, not Iruna, Toram Online, and it is going to include spoilers. And I know none of my friends are going to get into it. Well, at least to my knowledge, because the gameplay itself is very draining. It's an MMORPG with lots of things happening, and you really do need a guide to understand a lot of things. Toram Online is a very cool little, not as of now, very little MMORPG, which is very big. It's gone through a lot in terms of story. And turns out that a lot of the chapters, like around 80% as of 85% of it was prologue. Basically, that was not the main act. And there's a lot of things happening. It's still a in development game. It's still being developed, blah blah blah. As of now, I think the level cap is like 300. I've been slacking on that game because it's currently not in my interest to do so, and I'm severely under leveled, which makes leveling very hard, and my stats are all fucked up again. And I'm waiting for a free reset or something, you know. But Toram Online is a great game. It has some cool characters, some very interesting plot lines, and it also is a bit very harsh throughout one of its arcs, which I will call the Ora de Media arc, or basically the arc where they all go to a place called Ora de Media after going through El Scaro and basically wanting to get more information of stuff, like basically find out, oh, what is making these monsters go crazy, what is happening, you know. And I barely remember a lot of it. I do remember some iconic characters which play strong roles in the story's prologue and stuff. We have Palulu, the very small merchant, who is a Kule, basically a small little person. Every MMORPG has those like little characters that look like goblins. Not like goblins, like they're tiny or small. Like the best way to describe it would be that these characters look like children. They're like very short and stuff, but their priority or main focus in life are to be merchants. Their culture mainly revolves around, you know, selling, buying, making a profit, but I haven't really seen most of the side quests of it, so I don't know. They're not really mentioned directly throughout the story, but they're like, you know, they're little traders that you can always buy stuff, and they usually run a store's general store throughout the prologues. If I'm not wrong. Like, there's a few Kules who are running the shops. There's one in Sofia City, there's one in Escaro. This is a lot of buzzwords to people who don't know Toram Online, but basically just they're little merchants, don't worry about it. And Toram's online characters are also cool. They're very cool. My personally, I don't have like strong favorites, like a specific strong favorite, but I do think that the Palulu is a character that I can always remember, and she's always there throughout most of through most of the middle game story, or like the middle of the prologue, if that's the best way to put it. She's with you for the entirety of the game. And yeah, you get to meet cool characters, explore new areas, and listen to good music. It has very interesting music, or like a background soundtrack. And I think it's very interesting. It's very PS2 graphic-y. I like medias which are like very like old in terms of looks and in terms of a lot of stuff, And I just think it's neat. Tournament Online is a neat game. Its combat is also very. It's MMORPG combat. You just avoid the little red zones. You do stuff, and it gets very complicated. My build for the Tournament Online, my build that I was basically running through the story with, is a dual sword build. I am a glass cannon, and most of my damage came from using a skill called flashback, which basically every time I manually dodge, enemies around me take comically large amounts of damage. And I was just a glass cannon, and I didn't do any good damage because I don't know how stat distribution really works, because that is also complicated, and I'm running with like dog ass equipment, but it's fine. It's fine. Nothing to worry about. Nothing too bad. And I was working on another build because I was playing this with someone else, and I'm just basically a tank. I eat damage. To be fair, I do have like very sort of overpowered equipment for doing those quests, but it was fun. It's a great game. You probably don't want to play it alone because it heavily punishes playing alone, because you need a person to basically aggro boss monsters, and you need a person that needs to do damage. You need a person that needs to boost your stats, and you also need a person to cover each other's flaws. You have to have a strong team, which is why a lot of the time I stop playing, because I just cannot manage to play by myself. Even though in the late game, the game decides to, in like the middle and late game, the game decides to drop me a strong ally, because you just can't play this alone. You have to have a team. And yeah, a lot of games that are team-based aren't really the best. Another example being Brawl Stars. Brawl Stars is just a little competitive game which, to be fair, is really pay to win. Starting out seems abhorrent. You have to unlock various characters, but because I've been playing for a long time, the only characters I really need to unlock are the upcoming ones. And even if I unlock them, I cannot level them up well. Each character can be leveled up to level 11, and some brawlers have things called hypercharges, which is basically it's a full power little boost you get when your brawler's level 11. And it takes a lot of time as a free-to-play to level up these characters. So most of the time you end up running like very weak brawlers when you're starting out, and if you do stuff daily, if you play the game regularly and do all the stuff that you need to do, then it really should not be a problem. But a lot of these players are very toxic. I like to call it the Supercell curse. The Supercell syndrome, where players will basically be rude, extremely toxic, and find ways to be obnoxious in various ways. Uh, in Brawl Stars, a lot of it's become known that people are meant to be toxic to each other because sometimes you just get a bad random person you queue with in team games. A lot of the team games are 3v3, 3 versus 3, and there's various game modes. There's heist. Heist is personally my favorite. It's one of my favorites next to brawl ball, which is basically you have to get the ball into this like score into the net. It's just soccer. It's like soccer. There's gem grab, which is basically collect 10 gems and don't drop them, I guess. There's a hot zone, which is basically king of the hill. You have to contest a point. There's and then there's the showdown mode, which is basically there's 3 showdown modes. There's duos, solos, and trios, which is just 1 player, 2 player, 3 player teams. In solos, it's just 10 players go against each other. You can basically break blocks and stuff to get power. It's hard to describe, really. But it's the best way to say it, it's like Fortnite. It's just like Fortnite, really, in terms of like how it plays out. It also applies the same for duos and trios, except you have a teammate now. There's other modes I'm probably forgetting. There's like 5v5s, and there's also some other modes which are very niche and not competitive at all, which is what I'm here to like sort of talk about in terms of Brawl Stars. The competitive scene. Recently, they've reworked their rank system for apparently the 5th time, and ranked is now not bad. Well, not exactly not bad, but it's not abhorrent. It's always 3v3 modes, and there's a set pool of modes that you can play in ranked, and as of now you can only pick brawlers who are level 11, which is a great change. This just turned to like the Brawl Stars talking session, which is very much just not what I wanted. But yeah, competitive games are fun. Well, a lot of them. In terms of being competitive, there's another game. It's Yu-Gi-Oh! The overall Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise, I used to play Master Duel. Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel, the Konami approved simulator where you can play Yu-Gi-Oh! With other people. And I really haven't been paying attention to the Master Duel, the TCG, or the OCG formats at all. And I've been more focused on a niche format called Duel Links, which is a very weird format. And it's better for me to not explain it because it's like awful. And there's also another game which is very difficult to explain in terms of like what you have to do to play it, or like how to play it out, which is Ultra Kill. Ultra Kill is a very good game. The last time I played it was before I went to travel back. When I went to travel to New Jersey, I had to basically hope and pray that my laptop didn't break, and it broke. It got mold infested, which is unfortunate. Ultra Kill is a very cool game. It's early access because it's still in development, so nothing's perfect. I think nothing's really perfect of it yet. There's still changes, bug fixes. They still gotta finish the game. But what there is of it so far is very cool. I'm not gonna say a lot about it. The story of it, but I'm going to talk about like the overall view, what basically Ultra Kill is about. In Ultra Kill, you play as a robot called V1, and you are a robot. You're fueled by blood, and you have to go into the layers of hell to sustain and live, basically. You have to kill things in order to not die. Because all of humanity is dead. There's a little there's a little slogan which is mankind is dead, blood is fuel, hell is full. And that's basically all you need to know. It's a first person shooter. It can also be categorized as a roguelike because there's a roguelike mode called the cyber grind. By far my favorite part of Ultra Kill is just the cyber grind. You can just basically kill enemies wave after wave to see how long you can go for. And a great feature of this game is the style feature, which was strongly inspired by the Devil May Cry series. They had basically a style meter depicting how stylish your gameplay is. Now, of course, it's not really necessary to have a high style point unless you want to access a few things, or unless you want to complete the full game 100%. You don't need to be stylish to play the game. The game is played at your own pace and how you want it to play. It can be very fast. You can just take it slow. Ultra Kill does not encourage a type of play, but it encourages you to explore, to basically find out what you want to do. It's why I like a lot of the games that I like, You have to figure out ways to do your own thing. And there's also very good story games with, that have a strong set story. But I can't really think of any right now, so I'm going to mention roguelike again. Roguelikes are very cool games. A very interesting roguelike game, which a lot of people, probably everyone and their mother has heard of it, Balatro. Balatro is a roguelike card game, which you play poker, and you just gotta go through and play poker. You get jokers, which boost your score, your chips multiplier, and you can see how far you can go. You can win Balatro by basically getting to ante 8, or like beating ante 8. But Balatro is a very cool game. If you need something to pass the time, I'd strongly recommend Balatro. The game doesn't really have a lot of story. There's no lore to Balatro, but it's all about number go up. That's really all you have to think about. It's just number go up. A few other games that I've played on my own time. Well, some that are worth mentioning would be some of the Pokemon series, As much as I like the Pokemon series, it just does not fully scratch the itch of video games that I look in for, I can make my own team and stuff, but I still have to abide by, you have to beat this specific thing. And there's a main story that you have to follow through, which usually doesn't end up being written well. The only ones I've played, and I'm gonna get probably hate from this, are the Sword and Shield franchise. No, the Sword and Shield series without the DLC. I haven't touched nor bought the Sword and Shield DLCs. The Isle of Armor and the Tundra Crown or whatever. But yeah, I think Sword and Shield is okay. Music's good. It's just it's a Pokemon game, and I'm not fond of much Pokemon games. The anime is indeed a bit better than the games itself, but that's just me talking. I have bad video game opinions. I have bad media choices, I like Homestuck, which inherently Homestuck does have its own games, but they're like story games. There's also a few other projects in which you can just sort of play it. which is very hard to describe, and I haven't played them, so I'm not going to talk about them. I'm going to talk about more story games, which I've played, or like games that, I can play by myself and have a good time. Animal Crossing is one of them. I used to play it a bit. I played it for a while. Played it enough for me to fully enjoy a birthday celebration in Animal Crossing. It's a very cute game. If you need a game to like play every day, it's a great game. It does take its time. It's not a fast-paced game. It's a slow discovery game in which you just live on a stranded island. I would recommend the Animal Crossing New Horizons game to people who are looking for a very calm time. So far, I've only talked about, very mildly amusing video games. There's no specific niches for any kind of video game to be good. That's very subjective to your opinion. But there are games which are seemingly incredible in terms of everything, and which are highly appraised. Balatro is a good game. A lot of people liked Balatro, which ended up being nominated for Game of the Year. My friend group, my friends like to talk about this one game called Disco Elysium. I've seen the surface of Disco Elysium, like the first 10 minutes of it, because a YouTuber played it, and it looks overall, it's lovely. I also am aware of Disco Elysium because the narrator for Disco Elysium, basically the voice which talks to the main protagonist, Harry Dubois, is the voice actor for one of the secret bosses of Ultrakill, which I really think is kind of funny, because I'm interested in Disco Elysium because of the voice. The voice of the narrator, or the person which is in Harry's mind, is very cool. It's kind of relaxing even, but the game is very insane. And when I do get my hands on a computer, I will be playing Disco Elysium eventually, after I go through other games that I need to play. There's Disco Elysium, Fire Emblem Three Houses. There's probably other games which I'm not really remembering. There's also the Splatoon games. I've really wanted to get into Splatoon. I'm a big fan of shooters in general. I like playing games where you kill the enemy and play stuff. I've seen Splatoon gameplay every now and then. I've seen some of Splatoon 3 story mode. I think it's nice. I've seen some of Splatoon 2 story mode and DLC, but I really haven't heard a lot of Splatoon. And the only way I was made aware of Splatoon was through popular indie animator Senor Pello, the funny man who makes these iconic, stupid cartoons and who basically invented Spooky Month. But yeah, I was reeled into the Splatoon. I like Splatoon, it's very cool. One of the medias that I am not very, one of the games I'm not very proud to know is all three of the Danganronpa video games. Danganronpa, the first one, which I believe is called Trigger Havoc, Danganronpa 2, Island Escape or whatever, and then the Danganronpa 3, I like Danganronpa V3, something Despair. And I think the Danganronpa games are, they're games. A lot of people will like them. They're story-driven visual novels. But they're weird. They're very much weird. They basically are just unsavory for some. But, everybody has their faces. Danganronpa was part of a game genre which basically falls into cringe culture. It was a type of media that basically a lot of people latched onto because it was popular at the time, and it is now currently very cringe. I will say that I have watched playthroughs of all of the Danganronpa games, of all three main Danganronpa games, and I've also seen vague gameplay of Danganronpa Despair Girls, which is a Danganronpa game that basically throws every concept of Danganronpa out the window and just makes it like a shitty shooter. And it's also very bad. It basically the plot for Danganronpa the Spare Girls is like, oh well, you're stuck on an island and then there's kids basically killing people with fucking robots. And I believe there's four kids, and the reason they hate people and want them dead is because they were mistreated as they were basically very much mistreated. I don't think I can explain the lore and story of Danganronpa the Spare Girls because it's bad. It's dog water. It's like awful to even talk about because it's just like, yeah, this kid was abused throughout their life and now they're killing people. Like, who's the fucking person snorting crack up their asshole? Coming up with all this insane shit and is like, yeah, this is acceptable. Throw it in the fire. Let's see what happens. It's like, no. But I don't want to end on a sour note. I've been talking for over 30 minutes, so I'm going to find one more cool video game, one more decent topic, you know. I would talk about Roblox, but Roblox is a very ass game. It's just bad. There's no specific Roblox games that are good. There is a interesting genre of games that I like to see, but I can't exactly recall. One of the games is just Monster Hunter Wilds, the Monster Hunter franchise. I've been wanting to get into the Monster Hunter franchise, mostly because of the monster designs. I like some of the monsters. I think some of the monsters are extremely cool, pretty, you know. I'm a monster connoisseur. I like seeing scary characters that are monsters and even eldritch, you know. But because I haven't played any of the Monster Hunter games, I really can't say anything. I have seen gameplay of them, and I do know that Rathalos is a monster. But another game that's just overall okay is Cookie Run Kingdom. It's specifically Kingdom because that's the one I've had a phase where I was hyperfixated on it. The game just it's okay. If you like decorating, then it's probably for you. If you like going through the story mode, which is very long and egregious, then it's probably for you. But Cookie Run is definitely a game. I really don't know most of the lore, but I am very fond of basically the Dark Cacao chapters, which is just every chapter involving the Dark Cacao Kingdom, which is by far my favorite kingdom and my favorite part of the entire game. And I think it's very cool. Some part of the later chapters in Beasties, which is like which is the second half of the game, kinda. Like the later game, I'd say like end game. The sort of end game of Cookie Run, basically, yes. I really loved it. I'm not sure what it was called, basically the chapter where Dark Cacao's kingdom is struck by a mysterious plague which turns all their subjects into like flour. They go from a sort of like brownish chocolatey skin or like crumbly skin because they're cookies to a pale white and are basically coughing up flour, which would be the equivalent of some sort of infection that makes you cough up like blood, meat matter and stuff, or like dust, like you feel like you're just coughing up dust. And so the dark cacao and some of his warriors go to Beasties to basically confront the Beast Cookie, the big bad, which was basically harassing Dark Cacao, who is basically Mystic Flower Cookie. A cookie whose main personality revolves around apathy, basically. And I think the word apathy is very cool. It's definitely a word. I've felt apathy before, and because of it, the chapter of those chapters basically did resonate with me quite a lot. It made me realize that, life probably doesn't suck too much. And from a fucking cookie run game, of all places. I didn't have a life changing resolution from like a good game. I had like from like dog shit mobile games. But, who cares? I just like the entire chapter, which revolves around resolution and apathy. And I think Cookie Run is a great game. In terms of story, in terms of gameplay, it's dog ass. There's a few things I don't really care about, but it's up like a 3 out of 5 game. It's definitely very pay to win. It definitely throws like ads at you a lot. It's like, buy this, buy it now. And, that's definitely a thing. It seems I've gone over time. As of recording this, I've gone through like 35 minutes worth of content. But again, thank you all for listening to my ramblings. This has been the iconic podcast that everyone's been talking about with your host here, Sandy, aka Sancio. Don't really want to let out my name because, I hate my name. But this has been episode 2. And I'm glad you listened through all of it. I will catch you next week. See you.